As we're talking about memory mentioned and the two bestsellers, now we're going to talk about A New American Dream. Can you tell us about the premise behind A New American Dream?
Yes, happy to. It was one day I was sitting down and I was thinking about what was happening in America, and I remember this moment of real clarity when I realized that as a shaman, I help people reclaim their soul. When we dwell on the seven deadly sins, which, sounds kind of funny, people think it's biblical, but it's actually based on what happens to the human spirit when we spend too much of our lives living in depression, anxiety, anger, fear, jealousy. It causes the death of the soul. And I was thinking about that, and then it dawned on me that I had actually experienced the death of the American dream. And the parallels were so serious, like so side by side. I was like, wow, a human being who spends too much time living in really unhealthy energies will actually lose their soul and have to recall it back. It sounds esoteric, but it's actually really what that experience is. When you lose track of who you are, you become so trapped in an unhealthy thought process. You will lose that it will lead to the death of who you are as a person. And I have actually watched the same exact thing happen in America. Corporate greed has become such the dominating factor in America that I have actually watched in my lifetime the death of the American dream. And we have young generations who desperately need a ladder to believe in. They need an American dream because the dreams that we have carry us forward. And it was in realizing that I was just sitting there going, wow, we need a new dream. We need a new dream. This country needs a new dream, one that is based in the way that we operate now, not the way we operated 30 years ago, because that's the problem with the American dream. It's based in an ideal of the country that does not exist anymore. We've changed, and we have a lot of different things coming on us. And how do we reignite that? How do we reignite the country? And it was that moment I was like, that's the next thing I have to write. And that is the premise of A New American Dream, is how do we reignite the American dream for the country? And I realized as an AI entrepreneur that the fourth industrial revolution, the fourth industrial revolution, which is AI, is actually our opportunity. And that's the premise of the book.
Mm-hmm. And I can speak as an immigrant, because, my family came here when I was younger, and everyone comes to America trying to pursue that dream, right? And so as you talk about AI, can you give us a few examples how we can best deal with some of our greatest challenges using AI?
Absolutely. So, just to give people a better understanding, historically, the greatest moments in American history have come during massive shifts, like huge change. And huge change affords us the ability to make changes within the change. And it was in that realization, it's like, well, okay, we're undergoing massive change. Are we going to do what we did in 2000? Because I was here in New York City in 2000 working, and I watched as most of us stood by going, oh, look, it's the internet era. Look at all the cool stuff going on. And the problem was a handful of companies really benefited from that, and the average person did not. And it was in thinking about that, I was like, wait a minute. We're in the throes of the AI revolution, and we have this moment to get ahead of that, to be we the people saying, you know what, we're not going to let the government decide this. We're not going to let regulations, which take 10 years to actually come around. And by the time they do, they don't fit anything. We as the people can actually say, hey, if we're about to undergo massive change, we would like it to actually benefit the people. And how does that actually happen? And it's by our awareness, our ability to have conversations about it, us saying, you know what, we're not cool with this, because we didn't do that. I remember writing a post that got me banned on Facebook and Twitter for years, because I was telling people that their phones were being used to spy on them, and people said, that sounds like a conspiracy theory. And I was like, no, that's actually based in fact, because I've read the documents that go along with it as an agency owner. And so now we've entered the age of AI. We're tiptoeing into it, and we have this precious 2 years. As a futurist, I'm saying we probably have 2 years to catch this. We can reignite the American dream for our country. We can bring in new jobs. We can bring production back. We can bring manufacturing back. We can reignite things. We can actually inspire our younger generations. And we can become independent again. Because one thing I do not like about what I have watched happen in this country is that we have become dependent on other countries to function. And it does not matter how much you want to love and care for other countries. If you cannot function as a country without being able to import things, like, for example, during the closures, we are no longer capable of functioning on our own. And that is where we find ourselves in 2024, a country that is watching more jobs leave, more industry not crop up here because it's cheaper to do elsewhere. And in thinking about all of that, I realized that we can fix so many of the issues that we have in this country by jumping on the fourth industrial revolution and saying, you know what, if everything is going to change, we're going to change everything.
Right.
We're going to care about other people, we'll care about other countries, but you know what, if your cup is not full, you cannot pour over into other people. And we are thirsty as a country. We need jobs, we need industry, we need production, we need to be proud of things, we need to become an exporter of things and not just a country that imports crap. And it's all of that that made me realize how much we could change. I'm sorry, I'm getting really passionate here.
You sound like you should be running for office. So we've become a country that depends on other countries for our supply, right? So you speak so passionately about that and about AI, and you also talk very passionately about raising human consciousness. So tell me and tell us, what does that mean to you, and why is that so crucial today?
So we suffer from a mental health problem, like globally. It's not just here in America, and I believe a huge part of that is attributable to technology. We've become too dependent on technology to tell us how to manage our mental and emotional health. When I was writing my first book, Unleash the Empress, and I had just gone through a major spiritual awakening, I was just trying to share how I had managed to learn how to love myself, how I had learned how to heal, how I had learned how to choose my perception of what was actually happening in the moment and not be a victim of it, not be in victim mode, not be reactionary to it, that I started to understand that I had actually stumbled on a way to deal with my own depression and my own anxiety in a really healthy way. And it was in seeing that I realized, wait a minute, we have a global mental health issue. We need a tool that will allow people to actually choose their perception of their current circumstances, which is a choice between being in negative energy and being in a positive energy, that I started to understand that raising human consciousness was a way to deal with the mental health crisis without having to get involved in what religion are you, what country do you live in, what language do you speak, where are you from. But we need that, not just here in America, we need that globally. And so I really believe that by raising human consciousness, which allows you to choose the energy in which you wish to show up in life, that we're handing people the tools for mental and emotional health. And that's a superpower, especially now when we deal with algorithms and technology that knows too much about us. And if we as human beings do not raise our human consciousness, AI will actually be ruling over us soon, not us ruling over AI. When you have a humanity that actually has a higher level of consciousness, shows up in love, they know truth, they know fact, they can see a situation for what it actually is. I believe that because of artificial intelligence, it becomes that much more important. It's not just about the mental health crisis. AI is here, and it will achieve a level of consciousness soon. If we don't achieve a higher level of consciousness, then we will be victims of it, not victors of it.
So how do you see AI transforming opportunities for underserved communities? And what role does your new foundation, Soul Tech, play in this? And congratulations, by the way, on getting your designation as a 501c3.
Thank you. Thank you. So about 10 or 15 years ago, I switched to helping turn brands around and help solve problems. And I applied that to a problem that I was seeing coming as a futurist. You know, one of the things about that is that you're using your intuitive abilities to foresee what's going to actually happen. And what I was foreseeing was, oh my God, we're going to have a ton of people who are adults who don't want to go back to college, who don't want to spend 4 years trying to achieve a degree that will be useless by the time they actually get it. That I started to look into what was going to actually happen to humanity when artificial intelligence came on board. That I started to see, like, I was like, this is millions of people worldwide. So I looked into it further and I discovered that 120, I have to turn and look at everyone, 120, 120 million people, 120 million adults will be transitioning without the proper credentials to get the job that will actually be the job of the future. And when I say that, people think I'm talking about in the future, like distant future. No, it's happening now. So I read an article about Intel, just to give you guys an example. And they've laid off a ton of people. A lot of the tech world's laid off a ton of people. But yet they hired a bunch of people who have AI skills. And I started to say, okay, I watched this happen in 2000. I remember this very well. All of these people couldn't get a job because they didn't know how to use a computer, which sounds silly to a lot of people. But if you have grown up in survival mode, and I know this well, I grew up in Memphis, Tennessee in the 1970s in a Catholic orphanage. I was treated like I would never be able to feed myself. Like there was no expectation, no hope, no nothing. And I learned what survival mode is. So I understand it really well. And I'm looking down the line and I'm seeing artificial intelligence is coming. And I love it. I'm a huge fan. I started a foundation for it that I started to understand if we do not create a method for training people, regardless of circumstances, how to succeed in the age of AI, that we're going to have millions of adults who will be struggling to get by.
I've always thought of the American dream as the heart and soul of the country. Boy, has our soul taken a beating in recent years. Things are a bit of a mess. You know, I thought after the closures that the corporations would step up to take care of people, but what we've seen is a shocking level of greed and corruption. It's crushed the middle class, decimated the lower classes, and brought people to their knees. And rightfully, they're angry. But you know what? We stand on the edge of the age of AI, an industrial revolution that we can actually get in front of. We can engineer and design a new America through intelligent and strategic use of technology. I truly believe that is the way forward. It is the way to provide hope to our younger generations and to reignite the American dream.